Hello and welcome to the channel where I review one book at a time by giving you a spoiler-free review first and then a deeper discussion right after. Book review. The Last Star by Rick Yancey is the third and final novel in the Fifth Wave trilogy, and just like Infinite Sea, it picks up right where the last novel left off. So in this book, Ringer is free from Vosh because Razor shoots Teacup, therefore freeing her from any obligation she feels to stay with Vosh to protect Teacup's life. The rest of the remaining living characters are hiding out at Grace the Silencer's safe house, debating what to do next. The main conflict in this novel to begin with is that all of the main characters have different agendas. Ringer has her own plan and her own reasons. Evan, Cassie, and Ben all have different things that they are trying to accomplish as well. And a lot of the times, their plans and goals don't always align. So you see the characters kind of fighting amongst themselves, trying to understand each other and work together, but a lot of the times just failing. Meanwhile, on top of all this infighting, the Fifth Wave is also about to start. So Evan's plan, which is the reason for them being at Grace the Silencer's safe house, is to blow up the mothership, therefore preventing the beginning of the Fifth Wave. Cassie, on the other hand, wants to prevent Evan from blowing himself up again. Zombie wants to go find Ringer and Teacup because he feels responsible for them, and also he has romantic feelings for Ringer. They haven't heard from them since the beginning of book 2. And finally, the most enigmatic of them all is Ringer, because she's free to leave Vosh, she's free to find Zombie again, but her choices are a lot more complicated than that. Just like in the Infinite Sea, we see a shift in Rick Yancey's writing. I'm not really sure what causes so much evolution in his writing style. I don't know if he heard similar criticisms or feedback as to what I had to say about the Infinite Sea, but in The Last Star he definitely dials things back. It's a lot less poetic and figurative in his final novel. Instead, he makes short, impactful statements that kind of sit with you, and it just kind of speaks for itself. It also probably has a lot to do with a change of tone in the series as well. I mean, the Fifth Wave was pretty dark, and then in the Infinite Sea we're introduced to the small children who are basically living time bombs with the CO2 nukes that are put inside their throats. I guess by the time you get to The Last Star, it is just so dark, so gruesome, almost hopeless, that Rick Yancey doesn't really have to do much more than just state what's going on, and then you as a reader, you just have to take it and see where it goes from there. Not only has the tone shifted to something way more somber than what you started out with in the Fifth Wave, this novel, out of the 3 books, is the most conceptually complex. The themes of humanity, survival, extinction, the meaning and function of love for humans, and I guess the justification of humans existing in the first place, all of these things are extremely important to the final novel. And again, just like I said for the first 2 books, there's just no way you're gonna get this on the first read. Finally, without getting too far into spoilers, I will tell you that I understand the ending, but I don't necessarily like or agree with it. You will just have to read or listen to the spoilers to find out what I mean. I guess what I'm trying to say is Fifth Wave wasn't completely hopeless, and a lot of that has to do with Cassie's character. It kind of left room for you to maybe have hope that things will work out in the end, or at the very least that there will be some kind of satisfying conclusion. I mean, technically you could be satisfied with the way Rick Yancey ended The Last Star, but for me it just didn't do what I was hoping for. So I hope that's ambiguous enough and doesn't give any spoilers. Yeah, it's just really dark, really gruesome, and he never shies away from that. I struggled with this. I believe it's too low to rate this a 3 out of 5. There's just too much going on that I disagreed with, both with the writing and with the story, for me to rate it a 4. So I think for now I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. So that wraps things up for the spoiler-free portion of this review. If you do not like spoilers or haven't read the book yet, this is your final warning. Click away now, come back again when you finally read it, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye. Spoiler time! Okay, so I kept my spoiler-free review short because there's just so much to go into. I mean, this is the last book in the trilogy, so there's just so much to cover. First of all, what was the point? So, when I was saying that everything was just so bleak and hopeless, and I don't really agree with where Rick Yancey went with it, I feel like the aliens should have just won. I mean, is that awful to say? But at that point, they had killed so much of humanity. They have done so much to destroy the will of so many. They worked so hard to study and then eradicate or forever alter what it means to be a human. I mean, the whole purpose of the 4th and 5th wave was to make humans not trust each other anymore, right? Because if humans don't trust each other, they can't make organized civilization. Without organized civilization, there's no technology or progress. And those were the things that made us human. Our ability to organize as community, as society. And in the viewpoint of the aliens and the human sympathizers such as Vosh, they believe that that's not a good thing. It shouldn't exist. And that's why they decided to eradicate Earth of humans. And yes, the mothership gets blown up. Yes, most of our main characters live. But by the end of the book, they're left with so little in every sense of the word that it just feels like, what's the point? They all might as well have just died. Sorry. And I mentioned the mothership blowing up. I mean, I thought it was beautiful and poetic that Cassiopeia got to die in outer space. She got to rejoin the heavens like her namesake. But it didn't feel like an effective way to mend or fix the damage that had been done. And that's what I was hoping for. Maybe for some people it's enough that the alien ship got blown up, but to me, like, I needed more than that. That just felt like revenge for the people that had died. What about the people who are still alive? What about what is left for them? That's why I understand why that might be a satisfactory ending, but I didn't agree with it. I was hoping for something more. This is another huge thing. I just never liked Ringer at all. From the beginning to the end, never really liked her. I feel so bad, and I think that's why the series just didn't do it for me anymore. I kept reading because I was invested in Cassie and Evan's story, and because I wanted to know like how things would end up, but I wasn't as invested anymore by The Last Star. Not only did I dislike Ringer, there's just so many improbable things that happen. These children get shot up so much. They survive improbable situations. At some point, you just become kind of numb to it. What else? I really don't like where Rick Yancey went with Evan and Ben's characters either. Ben basically became a glorified babysitter for Sam and Megan, and Evan just became an angsty emo with a hero complex who is trying to die to save the world. It just felt like such a waste of a great opportunity. because their characters started out so well. Speaking of Evan, I don't even like where Cassie and Evan's relationship went, because by the time they get to the last star, they are just not seeing eye to eye anymore. Cassie really resents Evan for being an alien. Evan kind of becomes less complicated and just more annoying. And worst of all, they actually have literal intercourse in the final book, but it wasn't romantic in the slightest. It was actually off-putting because Evan didn't even want to do it. It was Cassie kind of forcing him into it, and it just kind of ruined whatever wholesome relationship they had from the start. Okay, so I don't want everything I say to be negative. One thing I did like was at least Sam redeemed himself, because he was really, really annoying beginning in book 2, and I didn't really talk about it very much in my Infinite Sea review. The way he treated Cassie just made me so angry. Maybe it's because I'm an older sister, and if my younger siblings acted the way Sam did, I would get really mad. To make it worse, Cassie went through so much for Sam, and he just ends up being ungrateful and fixated on a whole nother person, Ben. I did like Ben and Sam's relationship, but not at the expense of Sam's relationship with his own sister. At the very least, in The Last Star, you see Sam become more useful, more resilient. There are moments when he remembers the child that he was before, and him and Cassie have a lot more situations and moments where they're bonding again or reminiscing on the lives that they had. You know what relationship I didn't really understand or get though? Vosh and Ringer. Again, with Rick Yancey trying to sell you a relationship or a bond that I just didn't buy. So I could not understand why Vosh was so invested and interested in Ringer. I guess as a reader, you have to like Ringer to begin with in order to understand Vosh's liking of her, because by the end of the book, he borderline loves her as a maybe daughter or as a comrade, but he says that Ringer was the closest person he ever saw himself in. I guess that's high praise, but the whole dynamic, the back and forth between them, where he's kind of like a father figure to Ringer because she has daddy issues, I didn't like it. It didn't do it for me. And speaking of Vosh, he was way more important than I thought he was gonna be. For some reason in my head, when we met him in the Fifth Wave, I thought, like, you know how in video games you have like the small time bosses and then you get to the final boss? I thought there'd be a final boss, but no, it's just Vosh the whole time. Vosh was interesting to the point where you were trying to figure out if he was an alien or not, but once you found out that he was just a human that abandoned humanity, he kind of lost his magic to me. So last but not least, I do want to discuss the title of the novel, because Rick Yancey puts a lot of thought into the symbology that he puts into his writing. I definitely think The Last Star is supposed to represent Cassiopeia. The way she exploded like a supernova when she blew up the mothership. Okay, spoiler warning for Divergent. Don't listen to this if you don't know how that series ends, but I will say that the ending of the Fifth Wave trilogy reminded me of the ending of the Divergent trilogy, because Tris dies as well. But the difference between Divergent and the Fifth Wave is when Tris died, I felt like there was room to grow into that space that she left behind. When Cassie died, I just felt empty and bereft. So that's how I'm gonna leave this review as well, because that's how the series made me feel. I would love to stay and chat more, but I gotta go read some more books, I guess. If you like the way I break down books, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!